My name is Hollis Ward. I've lived without air conditioning my whole life, 63 years. My farmhouse sits in open sun from 6 in the morning until 8 at night in July. No shade trees on the south wall, and the inside of my kitchen has never once crossed 82 degrees. Not last summer, not the summer before that. I didn't do anything complicated to make that true. I did one thing, and I did it the way my father did it, and his father before him. You, watching this, almost certainly have a unit running somewhere in your house right now. I've never owned one. That's not a boast. It's the reason I know exactly what your roof is doing to you, because I fixed the same problem without the machine you're relying on. Stay with me here. Before we're done, you're going to know the exact name of what I use, what it costs, where you buy it, and what to do with it this weekend, before the next heat wave hits your street.
You know the feeling. It's 4 in the afternoon. Your air conditioner has been running since 10 this morning without stopping. The thermostat says 72. Your hand on the wall near the ceiling tells a different story. That wall is warm. Not room temperature warm, sun-soaked warm, like it's been holding heat all day and letting it go slowly, hour after hour, straight into the room you're sitting in. Go up into your attic sometime in the middle of the afternoon, if you can stand it. Bring a thermometer. You'll find numbers between 130 and 150 degrees Fahrenheit up there, sitting directly above the room where your children sleep. That heat doesn't stay in the attic. It moves through the ceiling joists, through the insulation, down into the living space all night long, long after the sun goes down. That's why your house never really cools off, even at 2 in the morning. That's why your air conditioner runs until the sun comes up again. Touch the roof shingles themselves at 3 in the afternoon in July, and you'll find they're running somewhere close to 160 degrees. Not the air around them, the shingles. That's hot enough to blister skin on contact, hot enough to soften the tar underneath. And every one of those degrees is sitting 6 feet above your ceiling, radiating downward whether you're home or not, whether the air conditioner is running or not. A dark roof doesn't take a day off. It starts absorbing heat the moment the sun clears the tree line, and it doesn't stop until the sun is gone. Central air doesn't stop that heat from entering your house. It just fights it after it's already inside. You're not cooling your home. You're running a losing race against a roof that's absorbing 90% of the sunlight that lands on it and turning it into heat that has nowhere to go but down, into your rooms. The average household in a hot climate spends somewhere between $60 and $100 a month in July and August just on the electricity to run that race. And every year the unit works a little harder, because the roof above it never stopped being the actual source of the problem. You can buy a bigger air conditioner. You can buy a second one. Neither one touches the reason your house gets hot in the first place. My grandfather whitewashed the barn roof every spring, and the farmhouse roof every other spring, for as long as anybody in my family can remember. Not paint. Whitewash. A thin, chalky white coating made from hydrated lime, water, and a little salt to help it stick. He did it with a brush the size of a push broom, standing on a ladder, same weekend every year, right after the last frost. The Amish settled Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, starting in 1737, coming from Switzerland and the Palatinate region of Germany. They brought farm practices with them that had already been proven over centuries in Europe, and whitewashing roofs, barns, and fences was one of them. It wasn't decoration, it was survival math, done with materials that cost almost nothing and were sitting in the ground. They weren't the only ones who figured this out. On the Greek islands of the Cyclades, whitewashing became so central to how homes survived the summer heat that entire villages ended up painted white from roofline to foundation, a practice that stretches back through the region's building tradition, long before anyone thought of it as a tourist postcard. The material changed a little from place to place, sometimes lime, sometimes a lime and chalk mixture, but the reasoning was identical everywhere it showed up. White reflects, dark absorbs, and a house that reflects survives the summer with less effort. Agricultural extension bulletins in the United States were still recommending lime whitewash for barn walls and roofs into the early 20th century. Not for looks, but because it was the cheapest, reliable way a farmer had to keep livestock cooler and healthier through August. Here's the term you need: albedo. It means the percentage of sunlight a surface reflects back into the sky instead of absorbing. A dark asphalt shingle roof has an albedo of around 5 to 10%. That means it absorbs 90 to 95% of the sunlight that hits it,
and turns almost all of it into heat. A fresh coat of lime whitewash has an albedo close to 80%. It bounces most of that same sunlight straight back up before it ever becomes heat inside your attic. This is the same physics that explains why glacier ice and fresh snow stay cold under direct sun for months at a time. White, reflective surfaces simply refuse to absorb the energy that darker surfaces take in without resistance. Your roof and a glacier are obeying the exact same law. One of them is just working against you instead of for you. There's a second term worth knowing here: thermal mass, the capacity of a material to absorb and hold heat before releasing it. A dark roof isn't just reflecting less sunlight, it's also storing what it absorbs, like a stone sitting in the sun, and giving that heat back to your house for hours after sunset. A whitewashed surface never builds up that stored heat in the first place, because it never absorbed it to begin with. The item is called hydrated lime, sometimes sold as builder's lime or type S lime. You'll find it at any masonry supply store, most farm co-ops, and plenty of regular hardware stores, usually sitting near the concrete and mortar mix. A 50-pound bag runs somewhere between $14 and $22 depending on where you live, and one bag mixed properly covers roughly 400 to 500 square feet with 2 coats. For an average roof, you're looking at somewhere between $30 and $60 total, and a Saturday afternoon. If you want to talk to yourself in the mixing bucket, you can. My grandfather always said the whitewash didn't care whether you talked to it or not, but the mixing mattered more than anything else you'd do that day. Start with a clean, dry surface. Sweep off loose debris, moss, and dust. Whitewash won't bond to a dirty surface, and it won't bond to a wet one either. Mix 1 part hydrated lime to 2.5 parts clean water. Add a small handful of table salt per gallon of mix. That's the part most people skip, and it's the part that keeps the coating from washing off in the first hard rain. Let the mixture sit for at least an hour before you use it. This is called slaking, the chemical process where the lime fully hydrates and the mixture smooths out. Skip this step, and your coat will be chalky and uneven. Apply with a wide masonry brush or a garden sprayer in thin, even coats. 2 thin coats beat 1 thick one every time. Thick coats crack and peel within a season. Let the first coat dry for a full day before applying the second. Work early in the morning or late in the afternoon. Direct midday sun dries the coat too fast for it to cure properly, and a fast-dried whitewash flakes off within weeks. Keep a damp rag nearby and wipe drips off gutters and trim as you go. Lime sets fast once it hits a cooler surface, and dried drips are far harder to remove than wet ones. If you're working on a roof pitch steeper than a walk-up ladder is comfortable for, use roof brackets and a harness rather than trying to balance the bucket in one hand. This is a 2-coat job stretched over 2 days, not a race, and there's no version of this method that rewards rushing the ladder work. People skip the salt, and the first storm strips half their work away. People apply it in the heat of the day, and it dries into a chalky powder that brushes off in the wind. People use standard garden lime instead of hydrated lime, wrong material entirely, and it won't bond to a roof surface at all. People apply 1 thick coat instead of 2 thin ones, thinking they're saving time. They're not. They're guaranteeing they'll be back up that ladder in 6 weeks instead of next spring. People mix the whole batch at once and let it sit in the sun while they work. Lime wash starts to set up in the bucket after about 2 hours, even without being applied to anything. Mix small batches, use them, mix again. A stiff, half-set batch goes on streaky no matter how good your brush technique is. People apply it to a roof that's still holding morning dew. Any moisture already sitting on the surface dilutes the mix right where it lands, and you end up with a patchy coat that's thick in some spots and see-through in others by the second week. There's a product called Cool Roof Coating, sold by roofing contractors, that does essentially the same job as hydrated lime: reflect sunlight, lower attic temperature, using the same principle of solar reflectance. It's marketed as a modern innovation. It typically costs between $3 and $7 per square foot installed. For an average roof, that's a bill running into the thousands. The company selling you that coating isn't lying about how it works. It's just not telling you that a 50-pound bag of hydrated lime does the same job of reflecting sunlight for a fraction of the cost, using a method farmers have relied on for generations before spray-on reflective coatings existed as a product category at all. Nobody profits from you mixing a bucket in your driveway. Somebody profits from you signing a contract.
Compare the numbers side by side, and the gap gets harder to ignore. A 1,000-square-foot roof section done professionally with a modern elastomeric cool roof coating runs somewhere around $3,000 to $7,000 once labor is included. The same square footage done yourself with hydrated lime, 2 coats, comes out closer to $60 to $120 in material, plus a weekend of your own time. Both coatings are chasing the same albedo number. Only one of them requires a sales visit first. If you already tried something like this on your own roof, or attempted a version of it that didn't hold up, tell me what happened in the comments below. I want to know what you found, and whether it lasted through your first real storm. A whitewashed roof or wall needs a fresh coat every 12 to 18 months in most climates, and every 8 to 10 months in areas with heavy rainfall. You'll know it's time when the white starts to look thin, and you can see the underlying surface color coming through in patches. That's not failure. That's the coating doing exactly what it's supposed to do, wearing away gradually, instead of trapping moisture underneath the way modern paint does. This is also where the second unexpected connection comes in. Hydrated lime carries a naturally high pH, above 12, which makes it inhospitable to mold and mildew. That's the same reason lime wash has been used inside barns and dairy sheds for over a century to control bacterial growth on animals' skin and hooves. The same coating that bounces heat off your roof is also quietly refusing to let mold take hold underneath it. 2 problems, 1 bucket. Watch for the coating going gray or dull before it goes thin. That's usually airborne dust settling into the surface, not the lime itself breaking down. And a soft brush and a hose will bring the reflectivity back without a full reapplication. What you're actually watching for is the underlying material showing through in patches the size of your hand. Once you see that, you've got maybe 1 more season before the exposed patches start absorbing heat again at the original rate, undoing the work in exactly the spots that matter most. Here it is. 1 thing. Go to a masonry supply store or a farm co-op this weekend and buy 1 50-pound bag of Type S hydrated lime. It will cost you somewhere between $14 and $22. Mix it 1 part lime to 2.5 parts water. Add your handful of salt per gallon, let it slake for an hour, and apply 2 thin coats to the section of your roof or exterior wall that takes the most direct afternoon sun, usually the south or west-facing side. Do it early morning or late afternoon, not midday. That's it. That's the whole assignment. You will not fix your entire roof in 1 weekend, and you don't need to. Do the section that faces the sun the longest. Measure your attic temperature the following afternoon and compare it to what you recorded before. The difference will tell you everything you need to know about whether to finish the rest. Next week, I'm going to show you what my grandmother did to keep milk and butter cold for days, with no refrigerator at all, using nothing but a hole in the ground and a wet sack. It's simpler than you think, and it worked for longer than any refrigerator you've ever owned. The sun doesn't care what color your roof is, you do.